Hello and welcome. We're diving into a really big question today, one that I think a lot of us wrestle with. How do you actually change your life's direction without that feeling that you have to just, burn it all down and start over from zero? Let's get into it. Welcome to Wealth MatriXCrossroads. This is the place where wealth and strategy come together. And today, we are talking about one of the biggest strategic decisions you can make, how to change your trajectory the smart way. So when we feel stuck, what's that first thought that pops into our heads? For so many people, it's this one right here. I just need a new degree. A new piece of paper that's going to make it all okay. Where maybe the dream is even bigger than that. A total change of scenery. Move to a new country, a new culture, just a completely clean slate. And then, of course, there's the career fantasy. Jumping ship to a totally different industry, just leaving everything you know behind for something that seems way more exciting, right? And when you add all that up, what are we really talking about? It's the desire for a new identity, the belief that to get a new future, you have to completely erase your past. But what if that idea is just flat out wrong? And that brings us to our first big idea today, what I like to call the starting over fallacy. We're going to break down why this whole clean slate idea is not just a myth, but it's usually a really inefficient and honestly costly way to make a change. Okay, so look at this. This really lays out the two different ways to think about it. On the left, you have starting over. Now, it sounds heroic, right? But it is so high cost, not just in money, but in your time, in your credibility. You lose all the leverage you've spent years building up. But on the right, you have repositioning. This is the smarter play. It's lower cost, it's way more efficient, and this is the key, it builds on the foundation you already have. I want you to just let this one sink in for a second. You don't escape constraints by erasing your past. You escape them by repositioning it. See, your past, your experience, that's not baggage. It's your launch pad. The whole game isn't about running away from what you've done. It's about finding a new arena where what you've done is valued even more. All right, so if we're going to reposition, we first have to take stock of what we're working with. So in this next part, we're going to uncover 3 hidden assets, the leverage that you almost certainly already have, but probably aren't giving yourself enough credit for. But before I just lay them out, I want you to ask yourself this question. Seriously, if you had to make a list right now of your transferable assets, what would you write down? My guess is most people think that list is pretty short, or that their skills are way too specific. And I'm here to tell you that is almost never true. Okay, here they are, your 3 secret weapons. First step, accumulated skill. Now, this isn't your job title, okay? This is your raw, actual ability to solve problems, to manage a chaotic project, to get people on board with an idea. Second, domain familiarity. This is your insider's playbook. You know the unwritten rules, who the real players are, all the jargon. That is so valuable. And number 3, credibility signals. Your track record sends a powerful signal of trust. People are just more willing to take a chance on someone who's been in the trenches, even if it's in a slightly different field. And this is the absolute key takeaway. This whole thing is not about you needing to become more competent or smarter. You're already good enough. It's about changing the context. It's about taking the skills you already have and moving them into a new system, maybe an adjacent industry or a bigger market or just a faster growing company, where suddenly those exact same skills are worth 10 times more. Which leads us perfectly into the central strategy we're talking about today, the sideways move principle. We're going to look at how these small seeming lateral shifts can actually unlock the kind of growth that climbing straight up a crowded ladder never will. Think about a typical career. It's a vertical move, right? You're on a ladder and you're competing head to head with everybody else who has the exact same skills as you. It is crowded and it is exhausting. But a sideways move, that's a different game. You're not competing anymore, you're repositioning. You take your unique skill set and you just step over to a different ladder where all of a sudden you're one of a kind. That's how you create a real unfair advantage. Okay, so we're sold on the sideways move. It's powerful for sure, but timing is everything, isn't it? If you make this kind of move out of panic or desperation, it's just a recipe for disaster. So how do you know when it's the right time to make that strategic shift? So what are the signals you need to be looking for? It's all about pattern recognition, not panic. First, your learning curve has totally flattened out. You feel like you're just going through the motions. Second, the value you get from your network has pretty much peaked. And third, your upside feels capped. You could work 20% harder, but you're only going to get a 2% gain. When you start seeing these patterns, that's the time to start thinking about a sideways move before crisis forces you to. And now for the really practical part. Let's put this all together into a framework you can actually use. It's just 3 simple but really powerful questions to guide your thinking and help you plan your next move with some real clarity. All right, question 1. What do I already know that still compounds? Think about your skills. Which ones aren't just one-time tricks, but are things that actually get more valuable the more you use them? Focus there. Question 2. Where does this knowledge earn more leverage? I mean, where is there a market or an industry that is starving for what you know and will pay a premium for it? And finally, question 3. Which system rewards this skill the fastest? You want to look for places with quick feedback loops, clear paths to move up, where your work gets seen and rewarded, not lost in the bureaucracy. See? You're not starting over, you're just upgrading the operating system that your skills run on. So let's do a quick recap of the crossroads we've talked through today. First, the big idea. Smart, strategic repositioning almost always beats the fantasy of starting from scratch. Second, you have way more to work with than you think. You've got to leverage your 3 hidden assets: your skill, your familiarity with the domain, and your credibility. And third, you have a tool. Use that 3-question framework to really think through and plan your next sideways move. And hey, if this framework is clicking for you, then you are definitely not going to want to miss what we have coming up next. We're going to look at how people actually do this, repositioning themselves mid-career or even mid-business. Because making the move is just step 1. What happens once you arrive? In our next discussion, we're going to talk about how to stay mobile so you don't get stuck all over again. If you found this breakdown valuable, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's next. Like this explainer and share it with someone you know who's at one of these crossroads. And please drop a comment below. I would love to hear your thoughts on this idea of this sideways move. Thank you so much for joining me here at Wealth Matrix Crossroads. We promise to keep bringing you quality, enlightening, and really durable strategies for your wealth and your career. I'll see you in the next one.